Hi, Josefa. So let's take a look at your new set of essays, traditional foods replaced by fast food. Here's what you wrote. The issue of food consumption has grown in importance over the last few decades with the great surge of high-calorie meals, which are replacing traditional homemade food. Some believe that this trend has negatively impacted our daily life. Personally, I strongly agree. This essay will analyze its side effects using examples from the US government and Harvard University to prove arguments. Okay, on the whole, it's fine. I have one concern here. And my concern is that you're asked to talk about the negative impact on three specific areas of our world: families, individuals, and society. You didn't mention any of them in your introduction. So as an examiner, for me, that's going to raise a red flag. And I'm going to ask myself, okay, well, is this essay going to cover the elements that it's supposed to cover? Or is it just going to talk about the negatives and maybe the positives of fast food? If you do that, then it's not entirely on topic and you're not going to get a good score for task achievement. So in order to get a good score for task achievement, one of the things you need to do is to analyze the negative impact on families, on individuals, and society. Do you agree? Do you not agree? To what extent do you agree? Do you agree somewhat? Okay, but it has to be specifically about these. All right, so let's see what you wrote. To begin with, there is ample evidence which shows that processed food is replacing homemade meals. This is largely because a lack of time available for preparing meals and this is largely because a lack of no, this is largely because of a lack of time available for preparing meals and spending time with your family. Sadly, this phenomenon is devastating people's health, relationships, and even the national budget. Okay. For example, recent empirical research by the US government demonstrated that 80% of obese citizens eat junk food daily. Therefore, there is a crystal clear relation between eating high calorie food and the rise in numbers of metabolic diseases. Okay. So here you mentioned the national budget, which maybe you mean this to talk about society. I'm not sure. People's health, maybe you mean this to talk about individuals. You didn't really tell us how it affects relationships because you mentioned that word there, but you never actually expressed it. So I'm not entirely clear. So it sounds like you were trying to get at this, but it didn't really quite capture it. So it's an attempt, but not not completely. All right, let's keep going and see what you wrote. Nonetheless, it cannot be denied that despite its shortcomings, rapid food, we don't call it rapid food, we call it fast food, also has benefits, mainly because it is a multi-million dollar industry that creates a plethora of workplaces across the world. For example, an extensive study by Harvard University revealed that KFC employed 1,450,000 Americans in 2019. Thus, it must not be forgotten that some part of the population receives their salaries from it. However, it must be the government's responsibility to provide employment to its citizens. All right, that sentence is irrelevant. I don't see how this fits in here. Here, presuming again that you're talking about the benefit to society. Okay, so to conclude from the arguments and examples given, I firmly believe that the surge of unhealthy eating habits is harmful. For the foreseeable future, it can be predicted that as the prevalence of obesity increases, so will its associated health problems. Not so will do, it's just so will. Therefore, despite its financial outcomes, treating all the metabolic diseases related shall be extremely costly. Okay. So, a few things about this. Grammar, vocabulary, very nice, no problems, all very well done. I thought it was cohesive. So that was fine. For me, what was problematic was your task achievement. And it's exactly what I talked about when I said here, you didn't really cover the topic the way you should have. So how could you have done this? Well, you could have done a handful of things. You could have gone as this is true for all to what extent do you agree or disagree essays. You can go 100% agree, 100% disagree, or somewhere in the middle. So in a case like this, where you have to talk about families, individuals, and society, you could say, for example, it has a negative effect on families, but a positive impact on individuals and society. Or, some combination. All right, just to give you an idea. So you could say that it has a negative impact on families and individuals, but a positive influence on society for the reasons you mentioned, income, jobs, etc., etc. Okay. So let's pretend that you decided to do it that way. You could say that the trend towards fast food is very positive because this creates many new many new jobs for people throughout society. Therefore, the unemployment levels decrease. That's what I wanted to say. And people have money to support themselves. This in turn is positive for the society because there's more taxes being paid and there are fewer people who need to be supported by the government with unemployment. Therefore, it's a positive for the society. And then you could talk about how the shift away from traditional food towards fast food is negative for families and individuals because this food is less healthy, saturated fat. So, people who are eating it individually, they get sick. It's also very bad for family because family traditions are lost because, we're not sitting around the table anymore eating as a family, relationships suffer, etc., etc. So this is some of the stuff that you could have said, and this would have made it really, really on topic. But you do have to talk about these three. All right. And they're essentially giving you the skeleton here for how they want you to talk about this. All right. They're being very specific. And that can be a blessing or it can be a curse. But just being kind of general, like, oh, well, this is positive, this is negative, is not enough. And IELTS essays usually have this. They're usually far more specific than a lot of people really realize. Okay, so the important thing to take away from this is that you really, really, really need to pay attention to the question. It's not enough to approximately answer what is being asked, but you have to really specifically address everything that is in the essay. All right, so let's move on to your task 1 then, okay? All right, so let's see what happened with the shoe sales here. The bar chart provides information about the number of purchases made of 2 different color shoes in 9 European nations in 2018. Okay, good. From an overall perspective, from the graphic can be seen that the best-selling item was the black leather shoe in Hungary, whereas the least purchased was the brown one in Belgium. Okay, that's good. To start with, the largest, careful, it's not incomes because we don't know how much people actually spent. It never refers to money. It only refers to shoe color, okay? So what that means is that like in Belgium, those brown shoes, maybe each one of those shoes cost like, I don't know, like 500 euro, but like here in Poland, maybe the black shoes cost like €5 each. So there's no mention of money. So you don't want to talk about money, and any mention of it would be really inaccurate. So don't talk about income, just talk about numbers of shoes purchased. Okay. So to start with, the largest brown leather shoes sold were reported in Poland, Hungary, Germany, and Italy, with over 100 sales in each nation. It's not 100. Careful, because you see here, wait, hold on. There we go. You see here these 3 zeros. That means that these figures are in the thousands. So for your numbers to be accurate, you can't just refer to 100, but you have to say 100,000. Okay. However, Poland reached a peak with almost 140. Okay. So again, it's 140,000, but it's not a peak. In fact, there are no peaks here or declines or anything, because this is what we call a static bar chart. And it's static because there's no movement in time. It's just like a photograph of some undisclosed moment in 2018, but there's no movement. And so because there's no movement, you're not going to use any of these words that we associate with dynamic charts. So things like increase, decrease, decline, rise, fall, peak, and so forth. Okay, plateau. You're not going to use any of that language because all of this implies some sort of dynamic activity here. Instead, here you're going to use the language of comparison. All right. So let's see. With over 100,000 sales in each nation, however, Poland had the highest with almost 140,000. Regarding the black leather shoes, top sales were recorded in Hungary and Italy. Again, with over 140,000 and 120,000 respectively. Okay, again, no mention of profits here. All right, so what was your point here? Were you talking about the highs of both colors? I'm trying to see how you organized this. Yes, okay, that's how you did it. In contrast, looking at the least number of sales, Belgium obtained less than 10,000 brown leather shoe sales. We don't really say that you obtain a sale. So it's Belgium recorded less than 10,000 brown leather shoe sales, whereas France occupied the last place of the black leather shoes with less than 50,000 purchases. As a remarkable fact, in the middle of the table are the UK, Ireland, and Holland, where both types of shoes registered between 50 and 100,000 sales. Okay. Interesting. Okay. I don't mind the way you did this. In my mind, I have this in a specific way. I don't mind that you did it like this. You decided to talk about the highs, okay, and that's fine. You decided to talk about the lows, and that's fine. I don't really understand why you talked about the UK, Holland, and Ireland here. Are you telling us that those were the only figures that weren't discussed elsewhere? I'm trying to see what the logic was behind that. I think that's the case. Let's see. Holland, Ireland, and UK. Yeah, that's what it looks like. So between 50 that okay. Um okay, that's fine. So it's nice to see something organized in a way that is different from what I have in mind, but yet still gets the job done. So that was good. So yes, as far as coherence and cohesion are concerned, I thought you did a good job with this. Where the problem came in was with vocabulary, because you're using the wrong vocabulary. You were using this dynamic vocabulary when you really needed this static vocabulary. Okay, so that was a problem. And then, of course, your data was inaccurate throughout. It might seem like a minor detail, but I can assure you that examiners will look at this and they will mark you down in task achievement for not having appropriate data. I mean, it's one thing to talk about 50 sales and it's another thing to talk about 50,000. So that's going to mark you down. Let's see. So that's pretty much it about this set. It's a good first try at task 1. So keep at it. Just to tell you how I view this and how I typically do this whenever I do it kind of in my head. I do something very similar for my introduction and my overview, no question about that. But then what I typically do is I have a paragraph for black shoes and a paragraph for brown shoes. In my paragraph for black shoes, I talk about the ones that are over 100,000, just like you did. So I definitely mentioned that Poland had the most. And then I talk about the other two countries that scored over 100,000, not scored, but you know what I mean, that sold over 100,000. Then I go to France. And then I really just kind of lump the rest of the countries together. And so I say the remaining countries, UK, Germany, Ireland, Holland, and Poland, all sold between 50 and 100,000 black leather shoes. And then I'm done with that paragraph. Okay. So essentially, I should be able to get that paragraph done within about 4 sentences. Then I do something very similar with the brown leather shoes. Again, talking about the ones that sold over 100,000. Here the numbers are more similar. You've got your top 3 that are all very close to each other. And then this is the lowest figure on the chart. These are important to mention. it's important to emphasize these features, like the fact that Poland had the highest number anywhere of anything, and then is it not Poland? I'm sorry, I meant Hungary had the highest figure of anywhere anything, and then of course that Belgium had the lowest of anything in any color. Those are important things to emphasize. So definitely try to do that. And yeah, that's pretty much how we do it. And then again, lump them together. One thing that I did not check, and I would like to, is I want to make, but I'm pretty sure you did it, is you have to make sure that you include all the country names. Maybe it's a little excessive, but in my time examining, it was something we looked at. So if students left out one of the categories, it definitely marks down your score considerably. So make sure you mention them, all of them, all the categories at least once. And it looks to me like you did that without checking, but I can see that you pretty much included all of them. So just make sure you do that, okay? So go ahead, keep going, and we'll meet back here with another set of essays. Looking forward to it. So good luck with them.